guess before I start, how many people are new to Ruby? How many people are new to programming in general? Obviously, Gabriel, obviously. How's that company coming along? Okay, so just a little bit about myself. You can find me on Twitter there. I'm currently working for a company called Green Gain Consulting. We're working on a system called DigiData. That's a business intelligence system. And in my spare time, I'm trying to get a startup off the ground called Stick Services that manages PPE and stock issuances and stuff like that. Bit of fun for myself. So there's a lot of topics you can pick when you give a talk. And I could stand in front of you and talk about APIs and CQRS and event sourcing and how to do CI systems and a whole bunch of things. But I think this ties very nicely into Theo's talk earlier. I found that at a lot of meetups, there's always someone new. And when you get to these conferences and you sit and you look at the smart people in front of you and you suddenly wonder to yourself, how do I get to that level? How do I level up? How do I stay sharp? How do I progress? Like, will I ever be that good? And I found for a lot of new people, like being in that situation, like the Ruby community is very welcoming, pretty much always. It's one of the few communities that's really, really welcoming and kind-hearted, and I've never met anyone who's been malicious in this community. But if you're a new person in this community, well, to programming or Ruby or something, it's kind of disheartening seeing those people in front of you. You have no idea how to get to there. So this talk is pretty much a memoir to myself, like laying down the things that I wish I knew starting out in programming in Ruby, things I wish I knew, and things I wish I could tell people when they're starting out that they should, I guess, consider. A lot of the topics and things I mention could be a whole talk in and of itself, so it's pretty much just an overview, but I hope you get something out of here, something to help you along this path, or at least reminisce on your experiences getting to where you are today. So you want to learn to program. You have 1,000 questions. Which language should I use? Which tools? Which books? But simply, what should I do? The first thing is picking your language. So when I started out, I decided to start with C++. I wanted to make games. And for a lot of people, that's true. So stubborn as I am, I set off on the internet. I read thousands of tutorials, bought a fair number of books, and I spent days and sleepless nights trying to figure it all out. And same as for Theo, luckily I had a lot of time to catch up on my sleep in maths class. Sorry. Let's go back. So you should know when I made that decision to go with C++, I had no one to ask for help. I was completely unknown. I didn't even know at that time that software development was a career you could pursue. It was just, I wanted to make games. It's as simple as that. So the first thing I wish I had is someone to ask for advice. That would have saved me a lot of headache and time trying to figure out how pointers work, instead of actually learning how to code. And as it turns out, there's a lot more to programming than simply writing for loops and if statements. So it all comes down to principles. Solving the problem at hand in a good way is a lot more important than simply writing out code or using your favorite language. And it all comes down to working software is better than perfect software. I used to take a lot of offense with that statement. Aren't we supposed to do our best? Aren't we supposed to make sure that our programs run flawlessly always? I want to obsess about the small little details that no one would ever see. I want to make it perfect. In one of his talks, Greg Young mentions that there is a good enough when it comes to software. When you want to make something perfect, there are a lot of edge cases you have to deal with. And software engineers are expensive. If your edge case happens 1 in 10 times, 1 in 20 times, and you have to spend, let's say, a month to solve it, why not let humans deal with that? There's no reason for you to put in all that effort if it's good enough. And on the other hand, we're not in the business of putting people out of jobs. We're there to help. We're there to improve their lives. While there is a certain appeal in making things perfect, the underlying principle is much more so. If you get the principles right, writing maintainable and extendable software, making something perfect as you go along will not only be easy, it will be possible and fun. It's called software and not hardware. You're free to change it at any point. And unlike most things in life, it doesn't require physical resources to do it. So by no means do I advocate just slapping everything together and just hoping for the best. But this is a workflow that has served me well. Write, then test, then refactor. If you follow this, it should be easy. Because you should realize that the first time you solve a problem, it won't be perfect. Actually, far from it. And things are falling down. Expecting to write a solution in your first go that is absolutely perfect is like talking to someone about playing a sport and expecting to walk away a pro. Just not going to happen. You have to try and try again. So actually picking a language. Don't really get bogged down with the trivial decisions. In the end, the language you choose doesn't really matter. You won't be using it forever. In my opinion, Ruby is an excellent beginner language. Yes, there's a lot of magic that happens behind the scenes, and a lot of people might argue that you should learn C and C++. Right? Get a grip on how pointers work. Write a garbage collector, optimize it. Write doubly linked circular lists. Truth be told, in my day-to-day, that hasn't really been important, and I've never really used it. Right now, there is so much processing power in your pocket that you don't really have to care about these things anymore. Following that approach of starting at the lowest level possible and building up from there, in this day and age, is kind of weird. It's analogous to learning to drive by being taught thermodynamics so you can truly understand how the engine works. Then moving over to fluid dynamics and frictional physics, trying to figure out how the pedal, the brakes, the wheels, and the road all interact. It seems kind of silly, doesn't it? Just learn to code. Just do it. So start simple and work your way up from there. So learn to code and not to write in your favorite language. Like I said, it doesn't really matter which one you pick, just whichever. And you don't need a PhD in physics to drive, and you don't need registers to code. On to which tools you should use, or Vim versus Emacs. I'm glad you guys are saying that. Leave your elitism behind. In the end, the tools you use don't really matter. Pick something you like, but learn to use it well. I myself have been through hundreds and hundreds of editors, but if you're just starting out, Atom is free and open source, and it does more than a decent job. The next thing you'll have to do is learn to learn. More importantly, you need to learn how you learn. You will always be out of your comfort zone, and you need to embrace this feeling. That's a feeling you get when you ask your boss for a raise, or you go on a first date, or give a talk. So make your learning fun. I mean, it's yours. No one can take that away from you. Whatever you learn is yours to do with as you please. So make it fun for yourself. Jeff Atwood, in one of his posts, has a very nice quote that in software, the how only lasts about 5 years, but why is forever. And that's very true. The landscape is always changing. The flavor of the month is a real thing. And you never can and will know everything. So embrace this feeling, adopt it, make it your own. The next thing is staying humble. We as programmers tend to be very opinionated about things. We have the things we like, we have the things we want to use, and I mean, we kind of don't listen to anyone when they say there's a better way or a different way. So the key here is to have strong opinions loosely held. You might have been doing something a certain way for an X number of years, but there might be a better way. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. Don't take a differing opinion as an attack on your being. It's just a differing opinion. Learn to listen, absorb, and observe. Aristotle once said that it is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. And I think that's very true. So now that you have all the tools in the right mind step, the next step is to learn. I would encourage you as a first step to learn a version control system, something such as Git. And the reason for that is the title of the slide, breaking things. When you're working on something you don't know, you're going to break things. And having something to reset that break is a useful tool. If you've been refactoring something or changing how the code works, the structure, and suddenly nothing works, and you debug and debug and debug, and for the life of you, you can't figure that out. For most of us, that's where we tend to give up. But if you've been using Git, you simply reset, and you're back to it. Maybe an hour or two lost. Nothing to it. So getting resources. First off, figure out what you want to make. Do you want to make a game, an app? And do you want to make an LED blink? Do you want to make a game? Keep that goal in mind when you pick what you want to invest your time in. If you're looking for books or tutorials, go to Amazon or Goodreads and read the reviews. That should give you enough information about where to start and whether it's something you want to invest your money in. If we go back, if you want to make mobile apps, there's Rubymotion, games, there's Me Too by our own Jenny Man, I don't know where he's at, back there. Web apps, there's Sinatra and Rails, and if you're interested in embedded devices, there's Embedded Ruby. I have to learn with an end goal in mind. So I can't just be interested in something without knowing what I'm going to do with it. So for me, I need to find a pet project. It doesn't have to be a really big project, but just something I can work towards and apply all the knowledge I've gained. Considering that I concern most of my time with web systems, I usually like to build a shopping cart system. So keep your pet project small and extendable. So have clearly defined steps that you can accomplish, applying some principle you've learned, without having to deal with all the other things. So in the shopping cart example, you can show a list of products, view an individual product, add images, allow people to sign up, sign in. You see, in each of these steps, you will deal with a principle or language tool or framework tool that you will use most commonly in other web systems as well. Seeing that showing a list of products doesn't mention actually even talking to a database yet. Simply just passing that data through to the view and displaying it. So once again, start small and build up from there. The next step I would advise is learning to test. I used to argue stubbornly with my teachers about why I need to write tests. Right? It's working. You can see it's working. Why do I need to test this? If you do decide to get a pet project, this will become more obvious. In most of the courses and classes you might attend, you are expected to complete an exercise that might take a week or two to finish. While those are great to learn a single principle, you miss out on what most programmers do in their day-to-day, and that is maintaining huge and complicated systems. When you write tests, the first thing you gain is the time saved by avoiding the monotony of having to manually click through things. By no means is it a catch-all, but it'll catch more than you just vacantly clicking through things. Secondly, if you can't write a test for something, it probably means you did something bad. Running a test for something kind of forces you to make a clear interface that will be easier to maintain and a lot more fun to work with. And lastly, code like the person who's going to maintain your code is a psychopath serial killer. Okay. A word of warning, though. Prevention is better than a cure. Everything in your code is equally important. Don't neglect your tests. Don't neglect your file structure. Don't neglect your CSS, for that matter. If you keep things neat, it will pay for itself. Once things get out of hand, it's a lot harder to rein it in than if simply being able to keep it clean from the get-go. And believe me, you won't do it later. In a lot of systems, and in my experience, people spend their time fighting with the system because things aren't as clean as it should be. And that's a big time sink instead of just being able to go about your work, implementing the new feature or adding whatever you want to do. It should be as simple in an old project as it is in doing it in a new project. At this point, you will probably get really invested in coding. You're figuring out how stuff works, and you're starting to enjoy it. You'll have a lot of excuses of why you want to do this the whole time. I'm progressing in my career. I enjoy doing it. It's actually a hobby for me. While most of these things are true, your health is a use it or lose it sort of deal. We like to think in the 21st century that intellect is everything. We look down on people who work with their hands or don't do the most difficult subjects or don't go to university. But in actual fact, your body carries your mind. So without a good body, the mind has nothing to work with. So do something that makes you sweat every once in a while. Get out, see the sun. At this point, you should probably be really proficient at coding. So the next step to ramp up from there is reading code. And an obvious place for that is GitHub. It makes it really easy to find code and read through it. So it's always a difficult thing trying to decide what you want to read. So pick a gem or a tool or a framework you've used a lot and go through code. See if you can figure out how they do things and why they do things a certain way. The next step, once you're reading code, is probably to learn a debugger. Prior is immensely useful in stepping through code, or other people's code, if not your own, to figure out how it works and what to do. Next step is solving some challenges. A great way to do that is Stack Overflow. So there are a lot of questions and stuff on Stack Overflow, obviously, but one of the key ways that I've been able to ramp up is going through something I've just learned and seeing what people are struggling with, reproduce that problem, try and answer the question. It's like having one of those answer books in school, but no one can actually say you're cheating. Another way to grow, a great way, is code kata. The idea behind katas are solving the problem, then deleting it, and solving it again. If you're interested where to find some of those problems, those three are very excellent resources. Next thing I would encourage is writing with others. Contribute to open source. And this might seem like a scary thing, but one of the simplest ways I've been able to help out is just writing docs. Even for projects you don't know. I mean, if you're struggling with it, someone else is probably too. And that's a great way to help out. Practice ADD. So, not the attention deficit disorder. A few years back, in one of the teams I worked with, I used to incessantly just try things. So, before reading the docs or searching for the answer on Google, just try it. See if you can figure it out. See if you can make it happen. So my friends came up with the term Andre-driven development, but I think it had a clever connotation. Last thing is pair program. So one of the ways, in that same company, we used to pair program a lot, and the one in their office, we discussed like how nice it would be to be able to attribute the pair working together, because like with regular Git, you can't. So I made a gem that does exactly that, just from a discussion in the office and a few hours later. And at that point, I didn't really know Ruby. I didn't know how gems work. Just try it, man. One of the last things I would recommend is making friends with giants. You are at a conference right now with millions, well, hundreds of smart people here. Leverage off that. You have the time and just approach them. A great place to see what's going on in the world is Twitter, but obviously, who do you follow? Find the authors and curators of the gems and stuff you like, follow them, see what they say about the world. Surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. That way you'll always be learning, and they make it easy for you. They've done the groundwork, they've done all the grunt work. You can just leverage off that. Attend events like these. I'm surprised that very few people actually know about the ZITech Slack channel. It's free, go sign up. There's a lot of smart people there. And the last thing is to teach. Carry forward everything you've learned. And teaching something solidifies what you know, because you have to transfer it to someone else. So what comes next? You're probably amazing right now. You can do anything, and at lightning speed. So go back to step 1 and do it all again. That's it. Thanks, guys. I don't know if there would be any questions.
Thank you. First, it was an awesome talk. A lot of good stuff in there. I think not just for independent programmers. Have you done any remote sharing?
Sort of. Right now I'm working 50-50 from home. But we usually just sit like one person typing and the other one hands off. So we switch that up. We use the site appear.in just because it's very, very easy. You just go on the site, click start, and send the other person the link. Appear.in. Anyone else? Thanks, man. I do something else. Go for a run, go lift some weights, go do a sport. Get your mind off the subject and onto something else, and it probably will sort itself out.
Do you ever get to write any games?
Well, that depends. I have like millions of unfinished projects that are one guy that can move around on the field, but nothing like complete and polished.
Where do you draw inspiration for these millions of side projects? Is it creativity based, or do you have a source where you draw inspiration from?
Actually, mostly events and like stuff I hear from people and what they do. Like CQRS is a very interesting topic where you get this like linear history of all your events, that anything that has happened on your system, and that's a cool like project to try out. Because in most of our applications, it eventually ends up that you need an audit trail. So being able to have that from the get-go is quite an interesting idea. So just whatever I read and the people I follow and playing around with that. That is all. Thank you, guys.